Good evening. This is Donna Blomquist, librarian at the LaSalle Public Library. Welcome to tonight's virtual program, Bagged Lunches Aren't Just for Kids Anymore. Before we begin, just a few reminders. The LaSalle Public Library, in partnership with the Westchester Public Library, will virtually host Team W, authors Beatrice Williams, Lauren Willig, and Karen White, as they discuss their fourth and latest collaboration, The Lost Summers of Newport. All three individually are New York Times best-selling authors, as well as great friends and a joy to interview. This incredible program will be on Tuesday, February 7th at 6 p.m. Central. Copies of the book are available at LaSalle, as well as in the library system in print, ebook, e-audiobook, and additional formats. This is one not to be missed. If you would like to purchase a copy of The Lost Summers of Newport, please consider making your purchase from Prairie Fox Books in Ottawa, our area independent bookstore. And on February 8th, a Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central, the library will join libraries across Illinois in virtually hosting best-selling and award-winning children's and young adult author and poet, Kwame Alexander. Kwame will share his own publishing journey, the obstacles, and the rewards. On February 23rd, a Thursday at 6 p.m. Central, the library will virtually host Tricia Menke, Curator of Education at the National Museum of the American Sailor, for a presentation about the Golden 13. In 1944, 16 African-American sailors arrived at Great Lakes for a groundbreaking officers training course. 13 of those men would become the first African-American commissioned officers in Navy history. In this presentation, Tricia will explore the experiences of the Golden 13 at Great Lakes, their time in the fleet, and the lasting legacy of these pioneers. As always, all library programming is free and open to the public. It is also shareable, so please feel free to pass the information on to others. We also want to hear from you tonight. Please post your questions for tonight's program in the chat. Tonight, Natalie Martin will be offering us recipes and tips on packing lunches for adults. Instead of boring or drive up or not very healthy or just ho-hum, Natalie will present ideas that will make us long for our lunch bags well before noon. Natalie, are you there?
I am here. Hello, everybody.
Welcome.
It's nice to see you. It's nice to be back. I feel like it feels like a while, but it's, I guess, not that long since I've done a program with LaSalle. I'm happy to be here.
We're happy to have you. We're, eager to find out what to put in the brown bag besides ho-hum.
Well, I'm hoping to, I have 3 different suggestions that we're going to make together tonight. And then I want, of course, I don't know everything, as I'm sure that's become apparent in the programs I've done in the past. But so if you have if this has triggered something in your brain or you have an idea, I want you to put it in the chat and we can shout them out at the end, because we are all learners here. So I would love to hear what everyone else has to say as well about ideas.
Okay.
So all of these recipes, they're not my own. I got these from other sources. Donna already has the links. I already sent them to her, so I can't even procrastinate and not get them out to her. So she will be posting those along with the recording on the website, the LaSalle Library website. But I'll try to shout out the recipe creator in this video, because again, I didn't make them up. But one of the things that I love, I've always been we are fairly rural here in the area. And I used to work in an even more rural area. So it wasn't like there was even an option necessarily to bring your lunch when, wait, Donna, are you ready for me to go? I'm going.
You're going. You're
okay, I'm going. Here I am. All right, great. So when I used to bring my lunch a lot, and we had a full kitchen there. I understand that is a luxury. Not everybody has even sometimes a place to heat up their lunch. So everything that I am showing today, 2 of them do not require any heating at all. So you don't even have to have a microwave. One of them only requires access to boiling water, which if you are on the road or something like that, you can get from a gas station. You can get it from a Starbucks. You can get it from a couple, somewhere on the road that you can get boiling water to kind of add into this. I don't want to give it away, so no spoilers. But I briefly wanted to talk before we get cooking about packaging. because part of the deal with bringing your own lunch is making sure that your food stays at a temperature that's safe for you, right? If you are lucky enough or have a workplace or a traveling place, if you're going, maybe on a trip or whatever, that has a refrigerator, amazing. You don't have to pay attention to any of this. You can bring it in a grocery bag or whatever to work. But I did grab a couple ideas of lunch bags to show you. These are both easily accessible at Target. This one is $10. And it's pretty big, like you could fit a bunch of stuff in here. So, but $10, I don't think is too big of an expense. You can see it's got a lining inside that's like a thermal lining. That's going to be important because it's going to keep your cold foods cold. It can also keep your hot foods hot, but not hot. It's not like going to be heated. So having something that can carry your food and keep it cold is going to be important. Now, these will keep your food cold to room temperature without an additional ice pack, right? So you can put your cold food in here and it will stay coldish for a couple of hours. If you want it to stay cold, you want to put an ice pack in here, a Ziploc bag full of ice, something like that. I would not recommend just throwing ice cubes in because then that sounds like a mess. But I'm going to go ahead and just make this big there so that everyone can see everything really well. So the nice thing about a traditional lunch bag like this interior is waterproof, right? We're not leaking. We're not getting things soggy if something does melt or leak. Other things that are nice is that they can kind of keep your lunch how you keep it. So if you put it in here, stack your stuff in here, and you hold it upright. We're not worried about tipping, things like that. You can control what direction it's going in. Something more like this, it's not as designed for that. It probably will, but there might be some tilting. So if you have something that's got a lot of liquid in it, it might not be the best. But either of these would be good options. This one was $12 or $10. This one was, I think, it's on sale right now, but so it was like, I probably could even look. It was like $12, I think. Doesn't say. So there's nice things about that. Now, if you were talking about keeping hot foods hot, there's only a couple real options for you. So if you wanted to heat up a soup or leftover spaghetti or whatever and bring it in, you have to go with something that's like this. This is a Thermos brand. This one comes with a spoon. So, that's great. And it is, this one, again, I got at Target, so it's easily accessible locally if you're in the LaSalle area. This is a kid's version, but I actually liked this serving size better. It can fit like a cup full of food, so it's metal, it's insulated, so it will keep your hot food hot for a couple of hours. Not like forever, but a couple of hours. There was another version, so this one was $16 at Target. There was another version that was like for adults that was like twice the capacity of this. So if you were a hungry person, or you work in a like a harder job, more labor intensive job, so you need more calories, that one was closer to $46, which felt like a shock to my system. So some price shopping, if that is not in your price range, might be a good idea. But this fits a good like cup full of food. So that's kind of nice. So this would keep hot foods hot. Otherwise, you'd have to go, if you wanted a hot food item, you'd have to have access to a microwave or something like that. But if you have a thermos, just like, when you had the matching thermos and lunchbox when you were in grade school, you were probably the coolest kid. And I was super jealous of you, but something like that would help keep your hamburger helper leftovers nice and hot. When we're thinking about meal prep, I am a big glass container person. I'm not a big plastic person, but that's no shade to plastic. If that's what you have, use it. I am a big proponent of having multiple different sizes because multiple different uses. I have two samples that are going to be specific to meal prep that I'm going to show you today that are going to be a good fit for a couple of the ones that we're doing, meals that we're doing. This one is a hope you can see it. It's glass, so it's kind of hard. This is a 3 segment. So you could put like your main entree or pizza wrap. Spoiler alert for later. pizza wrap and your side dish and a sauce, right? In here, so like pizza wrap, green pepper, and then marinara sauce to dip your pizza wrap in, right? So like that's really great. So you can have like 3 different separate things. They don't have to taste like each other. The thing that criticism and the thing if you're shopping for your own, this separator does not go all the way up to the top. So if you have something like marinara sauce in one of the little compartments, you need to keep this level. Otherwise that marinara sauce is going to sink into your other stuff. It'll taste fine, but that's when things start to get soggy. And sogginess is something I will talk at length about during this program. On the contrary, this is only a 2-compartment guy, but this one has a, it's hard to see, it's glass. This center divider, can you see it? Goes all the way up to the top. So it goes all the way up to the top of the container, and then lid has a silicone divider. So this is going to seal between those 2 compartments and keep your things separate. So if you're a person that doesn't like things to touch, very important to kind of keep that in mind when you're shopping. And then you can get a variety of different kinds of glass containers that you can use one for sauce. There's different sizes. You can do an entree and a side dish. I like that they're color coded so that I know if I'm looking at a community fridge, this is Natalie's stuff right here. You can even label them, but it's easy to recognize my stuff because it's all color coded. Obviously, I've had somebody steal my lunch in a past life. The last thing, as far as prep that I'm going to talk about is reusable bags. I like reusable Ziplocs. Again, I'm not anti-plastic, but I am trying to reduce my plastic intake. And lunches can be a big creator of trash, right? We buy a single-use chip bag, and that's great because sometimes that's what we need to do. But I do like these, and you can get them at a variety of different locations. Again, you can get at Target. Weirdly, I had all of these in my house, so I have a problem. But there's everything from like a thin plastic one that looks just like a standard Ziploc. These are really easy to wash and dry. They're great for chips and stuff like that. And then there's like these ones that are actually made out of cloth and they have Velcro. These ones, these are great for things like grapes and stuff like that. But if you have something that makes crumbs, the crumbs will kind of seep out. So keep that in mind. And then these are my all-time favorite, but they're also the priciest of all of them. These are silicone. You can put them in your dishwasher, which is lovely. And you can fit a sandwich in here. You can fit chips. It seals completely. You can put stuff that even has like liquidy, like if you're worried about spillage or like a peanut butter and jelly that gets a little squishy sometimes. So the silicone, these are by a brand called Stasher. This is not a paid endorsement. I'm just a big fan. So they sell them in a bunch of different sizes. And they're really, really nice to have around. And then if you need to bring a big, you put your full lunch in one of these, kind of deal. So reusable bags are a great thing if you are new to the lunch prep game. Having the right tools makes things infinitely more enjoyable. Things that make you smile make you more likely to bring your lunch is like the scientific study that I have done. So if you have a product that you like, I feel like you're more likely to use it. The other thing that you can find at any grocery store and at any, Target are these little screw top Ziploc boys. And these are plastic, but they are reusable. They seal really well and you can use them hey, look at that. It's perfect for ranch to dip your veggies in or a single serving of almonds or Raisinets or something like that. So these are great. And like I said, you can get them at any grocery store. They come with multiple lids that fit on multiple different sizes, which are nice because finding Tupperware lids is something I know that you can relate to as being really, really hard. So those are kind of my faves as far as meal prep ideas. And now I know you probably just came to this program for cooking ideas, and that's what we're moving on to next. One of the first recipes that I want to talk about is something that is branded as an abundance bowl. And the website that I got this from is Fit Men Cook. And the way that I found this recipe is I saw it in an Instagram video and I was like, that looks so good. And I had saved it. as an idea for myself, which if I like something, I know someone else out there is going to like something. And the nice thing about this, it uses quinoa, which I'm not sure if you've used quinoa before. This is red quinoa. It's probably reversed for you. There's a bunch of different types of quinoa. They have quinoa mixes. And if you haven't used quinoa before, it's a grain. It has carbs like any other grain, but it also has protein in it, which is really nice. And so this, a serving of quinoa has 6 grams of protein, which that's non-animal protein. That's not even dairy protein. So that's just coming from grain, which is really, really nice. It's very mild. I have a camera, I can see it. I have some already made up here. It's very mild. This does look a little bit like ground beef, but this is just cooked red quinoa. And you can see it's got like this germ around the outside, which is like a white border on the quinoa. And the thing I like about quinoa is it has a lot of texture. So you can eat it at any temperature, hot, room temperature, cold. It still tastes good. It takes on sauce really well. It's going to be very mild. And so it will go in just about anything. And you might be saying like, okay, well, Natalie, why would I use quinoa instead of rice or something like that? Rice you have to be careful about how you cook rice because it has bacteria that can grow easily in it, which does not happen with quinoa. Rice can get this, it's called like Cereus, Cereus bacteria that you can get, and it will grow at room temperature, like that 40 to 140, danger zone that they talk about all the time. So if you're not correctly reheating rice to 165 degrees, this bacteria can make you sick. So something like quinoa does really well in salads, whereas rice doesn't always hold very well at cold temperatures. It gets dried out and stuff like that. So that's why I chose quinoa for something like this. And we're going to put in a bunch of different stuff. This is a meatless recipe, but you could easily add a protein. You could add chicken, you could add, leftover salmon, all those kinds of things. Those would do really well in here. And that's actually the main reason that I chose this recipe, is because it can be infinitely, adjusted. So we've got our quinoa in here. This is about, 4 cups of quinoa. I think the recipe calls for 3. But this is what the quinoa serving instructions gave me. So you know what? This is what we get today. And to this, we're going to add a ton of different stuff. We're going to add some veggies. They called for red bell pepper, but I thought I'd talk a little bit about different bell peppers and why I would choose one over the other. I don't think I would want to use green in this because it has a high acid level. It makes you burp. So the green would be out. It has a very distinct flavor. It's not as sweet. I love green pepper, but we're not going to use it for this recipe. Between yellow and red, I think they're kind of interchangeable. They're both nice and sweet. You could use whatever one you want, but when I looked at my colors, you can see my color story, my food color story. I was trying to decide, I've got some red onion, I've got some orange carrots. So I think that the red bell pepper looks nicer, and really that's what it's all about, right? So we're going to be putting a variety of things in here. This recipe calls for edamame. And if you haven't had an edamame before, this is also, it's a soybean. This one is actually in the shell still. But this is a bag of frozen shelled edamame that I got at Hy-Vee. Yeah, you will pay more for them because they are shelled, but also we're not made of time, so it's up to you. You can buy frozen edamame in the shell and shell them yourself. But this is nice. It comes in a steamer bag. And we can just dump them right in, which is the really nice thing. So edamame, soybeans, again, high protein, takes on flavors really well, which is why it was chosen for this. If you have chickpeas, use chickpeas, or you can use whatever canned bean that you want. These ones are not cooked. They're slightly steamed because I wanted to thaw them. But other than that, they're not really cooked at all. And then I have some carrot matchsticks here. And again, this is like, if I was a billionaire, would I just buy pre-chopped vegetables all the time? Yes, 100%. And I did buy them for this, again, because I want our time is valuable tonight. But you could also, I was going to show really quickly how to make your own carrot matchsticks. And I find that when I make my own, I tend to waste a lot more. So we'll start with this. So you could use, you could also just grate a carrot, but so you start with your carrot, whatever thickness, where's my camera? So whatever thickness you want, that's maybe a little thick, but we're gonna go and we're gonna start to just make these long strips here. You just cut them as thick as you want the carrot, the final carrot to be. So you can see I've got these nice, long, skinny boys. And then I'm just gonna take them and cut them to whatever length I want. So if I wanted to make it seem like I bought these at the store, I'll look at those ones over there and cut them to the same length. You can cut them short. You can also just grate this carrot if you want to. Grated carrot would be a little thinner and maybe would break down a little faster. I chose the matchsticks because I'm meal prepping this, right? So I want to make this meal have as many dishes of it as I want. So maybe 4 and put it in my fridge so that all I have to do is grab it out. So I'm going to put the matchsticks in because I think those will hold up the best over the next couple days. I'm sure that the recipe uses actual measurements, but if you've gone to a program with me before, you know I measure this with my heart. And I'm going to do it however it looks right to me. But if you like more carrot or less carrot, or you want to follow the recipe, that is awesome for you. This calls for a whole red onion, this recipe. This is a giant red onion. Did you see this? It's huge. And we're picking red onion here. And I'm gonna guess the recipe creator. I think his name is Byron something. Thomas, maybe? I believe that he picked red onion because it's a little bit milder. It's a lot easier to eat raw. And I think a whole red onion sounds like too much for my specific taste. So I'm gonna put a half. And if you see how I'm cutting my red onion, hopefully you can, I'm cutting it into strips. I'm not cutting it all the way through. So I'm cutting it into these little strips, the width of whatever I want my end piece to be. I'm just cutting these tiny little strips. And then I'm going to come through and cut them crossways so that I have these tiny little pieces that come up all on their own. You can see now when I pull the onion pieces apart, it breaks them into these tiny little pieces. And that's the size that it's going to go in. If I decide I want them smaller, I just cut them a little and shave it a little smaller. So if you haven't seen that way of cutting onions before, it can really be a time saver. It can make it so that you can get through your, I'm gonna take this outer layer off. He's being a little annoying. You can get through your onion prep a lot faster. This onion must be really nice and fresh because it's not making me cry, although maybe I'm gonna jinx myself now that I said it out loud. It's gonna be like, yeah, sure, I can make you cry. And then we got this leftover little edge here. And I cut that in half again, and then I can run through with the rest of my knife to make these tiny small pieces. So again, if you are not a raw onion person, you can omit that. I would suggest maybe, or you could use a little green onion if you want something a little bit even more mild. So you can do that. So you can already see this is like coming together. These ingredients are gonna, as they sit together, it's gonna just make it even better and better and better because it's gonna take on the flavors over time. You can see I have this truly gigantic red bell pepper. I have just recently, again, through the internet, found out about this other new way to cut bell peppers. And you basically take your knife and you follow around the inside because you want to remove that membrane, right? Not because it's poison, just because it doesn't taste as good, texture's not as good. In other kinds of peppers, that's where a lot of the spiciness lives, not necessarily in bell peppers, but other peppers. So you can see I just like skinned it. Isn't it awesome? It like takes the whole outside of the pepper and leaves all the junk that you don't want on the inside. And then I can take this whole sheet of bell pepper. I'm not going to use the whole thing, but I can take it and I can lay it on top of itself and I can cut it into these nice strips. And it makes it really easy to get through your produce chopping. Now, another cool thing about making bagged lunches, especially if you have produce like bell peppers and like other things, you get home from the grocery store and you already have all this stuff. Before you even put it into your fridge, maybe that's the time that you that you chop up all your veggies. You know, things like carrots or celery, they do really well if you leave them sitting in water in your fridge. So like if I get celery, I'll chop it into my celery sticks and I'll leave it in a bowl of water in my fridge, and it lasts for like, I think I've had it for like a week or more just sitting in there. Which has been really great because then I can just go grab a couple out. I work from home, so I'm lucky to have all this stuff, but even still, it's like I enter raccoon mode at like 2 p.m. and I don't know what I have to eat at all. So having that stuff prepped is really helpful. All right, so as I'm adding these things, we're gonna look at it. We're gonna say, hey, does that look balanced? Does that look like I've got enough of everything? I think it's looking really pretty and like I've got a nice balance of color. Another thing we're going to add is pineapple, and you might be being like, what? But this is going to add some nice vitamins. It's going to add some sweetness. This is that pre-prepped. You saw me pull it out of the container. I bought a pre-prepped pineapple because again, I'm evidently a billionaire, and also because I wanted to save our time tonight. But that way I also am guaranteed a ripe, if I know I want to make this, I'm guaranteed a ripe pineapple. I'm going to tell you an avocado story here in a little bit from getting the groceries for this. But that way I know, because sometimes we buy a fresh pineapple and you think it's good, and then you open it up and it's actually brown on the inside, and nothing hurts worse than spending $4+ on a pineapple and having it be rotten on the inside. So we're going to add our pineapple in there, add a little sweetness, add a little fruit, keep it a little interesting. And then we got some parsley. If you ever buy parsley, you know, this is flat leaf parsley. There is curly parsley. You could absolutely, I can't really see it. You can absolutely use curly parsley for this. Curly parsley is great when you want texture. But you know, flat leaf is really also great as like a garnish and stuff like that. They do taste slightly different, and curly parsley actually holds up better. So it might be a great use for this. Let me just make sure I'm not supposed to put this in my vinaigrette. All of a sudden I had like a little moment. Nope, into the thing. So this is going to add a freshness, a bright green flavor. I am chopping the stems and the leaves into this. And there's a reason I'm doing that. The stems add texture. It still has that bright parsley flavor, but also I hate waste. And like, why are we always throwing away herb stems? So put your parsley stems and stuff like this where you won't notice. Absolutely put your parsley stems in there. Same with your cilantro stems. What did they ever do to us that we have to throw them away all the time? All right, what was that for? Oh, out of my, put some of my vegetables over here. All right, so we've got almost all of our main ingredients. You can see we've got a little bit of balance. It's nice and vegetable fresh. And then we're going to add some pepitas because we love crunch. We love a textural element. If you've never worked with a pepita before, this is a pumpkin seed. And this is a this is a roasted pumpkin seed. You can get salted ones. I just got these in the bulk section at Hy-Vee. I've had this box for a couple weeks. They're great. You can add them into granola. You can put them on your yogurt. You can mix them into your pumpkin bread. But this is going to add, again, more protein and a little bit of crunch, which is going to make it really nice. They're going to hold up. And look at how bright and beautiful you see it. That looks. You can see the difference in everything. That red quinoa is going to be really nice for color contrast. And now what we're going to do is make a dressing. And I know that we've made dressings before on these programs. And this is going to follow a similar kind of, you know, a similar thing to what we normally do. You're going to add a fat, you're going to add an acid, you're going to add some seasonings. In this case, our fats are going to come from tahini, and tahini is sesame paste. So sesame seeds, you know, just like we have on their hamburger buns and stuff like that. Tahini is paste made out of sesame seeds. And it's kind of similar to peanut butter in texture, a little soupier. And so we're going to put a couple tablespoons into my favorite gadget that I got in 2022. This is like this tiny little blender. It's perfect for dressings. You can do, again, this is not a paid endorsement. I'm just like a big fan of this blender. But you can put like your dressings in there and blend them up. It's USB powered, so you can like take it camping with you. Like, it's fantastic. Again, I got it at Target because I buy all things at Target. So I don't know, keep your eye out for there. It's called like a BlendJet or something. Probably if I wanted a paid endorsement, I should remember the actual name, but evidently not. All right, so we're putting that tahini in there. That's gonna add that fat. It's gonna be like a nice coating, like it's gonna coat everything really well. And then we're gonna add like a third of an avocado. Now this, you can see, is pre-chopped avocado. I tried to buy avocados today. I need you to look at my face while I tell you this story. I tried to buy avocados today, and I did not have time because I work. And so I was not able to get to the store. So I was like, okay, I'll do like a Hy-Vee order and then just pick it up. And I love you, everybody that works at a grocery store, but we need a training on what a ripe avocado looks like or feels like. So they're in my bag right now because I'm trying to ripen them. I got 2 avocados and they are so rock hard that they, I couldn't even push them. And I was like, I can't use that for a dressing because it's never going to blend up. We're making a dressing with it. We're going to need to puree it. So luckily I had thought ahead and I was like, okay, I need a backup plan in case I get a non-ripe avocado. And I bought this bag of pre-cut, again, because I'm a billionaire, pre-cut frozen avocado chunks. And the nice thing about these is that they're already ripe, they're already cut. So all I need to do is thaw them and I can use them for whatever I need. So you can put them in smoothies or whatever. You can smush them into toast or whatever. So these are still rock hard, but I had thought, I knew this trick. And again, you're supposed to do it for longer than a day and I'll let you know if it works, but you put your avocados in a paper bag and I put a banana in there. Now, when fruit's ripening, it releases a chemical called ethylene. And ethylene is, if you have like your fruit in a bag together, it's all going to make, it's like bouncing off each other. And so that's why sometimes when you have your peaches and they're rock hard, you put them in a bag and all those, it traps the ethylene and it helps ripen your fruit faster. So I put a banana in there because bananas produce a lot of it, hoping that it would ripen it. And it did soften it a little bit. So I have hope for the future. Okay, so we have avocados. We're going to add that to our dressing here. This is gonna, probably add more than necessary. And then we've got, I have just like, this is a rice vinegar. You can use white vinegar. You can use your vinegar of choice. I just happen to have a lot of this. And I like how it smells. And we're gonna add, so that's part of our acid. And then we got a lemon here. I'm gonna smoosh it a little bit and we're gonna juice that right into there. It's got this fancy juicer for Christmas for my family, and it has changed my life as far as juicing goes. So we're gonna put a couple of tablespoons of juice in there. And then we're going to put some garlic cloves. I'm just gonna cut off the butts and throw the whole, cut it in half and throw the whole clove in there because we're blending it. It doesn't really matter. If you're not a raw garlic person, you can omit this, or you can put garlic powder, or you can saute these ahead of time, or you can use the garlic that's in the like the jar at the grocery store, because that has it has citric acid in it, and sometimes it removes that, that ability to give you heartburn, that kind of thing. As with all vinaigrettes, we want to add some flavor. So we're going to add a tablespoon or a teaspoon of cumin. If you think cumin smells like body odor, I understand. I am not that person, but I have heard that is an experience that some people feel, and that's part of their lived experience. And so absolutely don't use cumin if you don't like it. You could also change it to just Southwest seasoning or whatever your favorite seasoning is. So that's it. If we get a little, I'm going to blend it. So I apologize for the noise. I can mute my microphone. As I blend it, I'm going to see if it starts to thicken up. I don't want it to be too thick and I don't want it to be too thin. So I'm going to blend it. I'm going to mute my mic so you're not blasted with blender sounds, and then we'll test it out. Oops, I forgot to turn it off. Okay, there we go. So I've got it kind of blended up in there. I want to kind of show you, this is a little too thick. So you can kind of see now it looks like straight up peanut butter, right? So we're going to add a little bit more water. At the beginning, it was already too thick. I couldn't even blend it at all. So I had to add water right away. But with this blender, you're going to shake it around. If you wanted to do this not in a blender, you could just mix it with a whisk or something like that. But you would want to, chop up that garlic a little bit more. Okay. All right. Let's see. Still, I think it's okay. So let me switch my camera back around. So I'm going to pour this over the top and you're going to see it's kind of thick, but it's kind of thin. It's, I'm trying to think of like a green goddess dressing maybe. And if you didn't want to, like if you're meal prepping this and you didn't want to put it all the way mixed in with everything, you totally could. I don't think any of these ingredients are going to suffer from being too soggy. You know, they're not going to suffer from having that dressing sit on them. And I think it's only going to make our quinoa taste better as it goes along. Now, will it maybe not look as pretty as it did when it wasn't all mixed in? Sure, but now it's done. You don't have to do anything to it. You can grab it and go. If you wanted to meal prep this, you know, what kind of container would you use? You don't need like a container with a separator or anything like that. You can just use, you know, a solid, one that has, like this, that's all one container all together. And you can have, 3 or 4 of those. This is 3 or 4 lunches right here. And we made it in, I don't know, what time is it? 30 minutes, and probably most of that was storytelling, actually, honestly. So we probably made it closer to 20. But this is going to continue. If you look at that and it looks a little bit like it might need a little bit of moisture, I'm just going to add a little drizzle of extra virgin olive oil. And I'm using extra virgin olive oil in this case because it has the best flavor. You want to go with something that's got a good flavor, good taste to it. You could use a grapeseed oil too. This is non-existent flavor or something like that. Whatever your preferred oil is. I wouldn't necessarily recommend like an avocado oil would be fine. I wouldn't recommend a canola oil or vegetable oil for that, just because that has a pretty distinct flavor. All right, so that is recipe 1 down. That's like high protein, little bit of carbs, but not too many carbs because we do need carbs to give our bodies energy. So lots of good food there, and you're ready to go. The next one that we're going to make is kind of a weird one, okay? And it is, I'm gonna get a little staging area set up here. It is these jarred noodle soup things. So there was a big trend a couple of years ago about having all of your meal prep done in jars. They would do like jarred salads and stuff like that. This is actually a jarred noodle soup. So you could use a regular size ball jar, but I'm using these jars here because I like the wide mouth on them. I like how they seal, they don't leak. If I wanted to microwave these jars, I just take off the metal part and put it in my bag. I got these at Marshall's. I think I spent $2 on this jar, but you can get any kind of jar that you have. You can use a leftover pasta jar, whatever you want. So I have done a little bit of pre-prep for this. And this recipe uses plain ramen noodles, the ramen noodles that come in the little brick, right? So what we are doing is making a little noodle soup bowl, noodle soup jar that you can put boiling water in to make it into your noodle soup. I found this recipe. I was so excited about it. And you can this is another one where you can put whatever you want in it. If you wanted a protein, you wanted some chicken or something like that, absolutely, you could put some pre-cut up chicken or something like that. If you wanted, okay, I can't think of another protein, maybe like leftover shrimp, I don't know, fish, tuna, that would work too. But all of the recipes that are making and meal prepping in general is fighting the SOG, fighting the water moisture that can get into your food. So the way that we're assembling this, we're going to put our sauce ingredients at the bottom. Then we're gonna make a little barrier of the other things, and then we'll put, or I'm sorry, we'll put our noodles in to block the sauce, and that also helps it absorb some of that flavor. And then we'll put the stuff that could get the most soggy towards the top, away from that moisture. So this recipe calls for mushrooms, and I thought in case that people weren't familiar with how to wash mushrooms, or if it was an overwhelming or like a barrier to you actually eating mushrooms. I know some people are just anti-mushrooms, and I respect that about you if that is your reality. But if you have never washed a mushroom before, I find this to be let's see, can you see it? There we go. I don't want to break a bowl live on camera like I have in the past. I like to do it this way. I put my mushrooms right into a bowl of clear, not hot, just clear water, regular, cool, room temperature, or whatever. Some of these look a little, this guy is starting to get a little icky, so I'm going to cut that part out. But I'm only going to use a couple of mushrooms because I'm not making a ton of these. So I like to move them around. I like to rub them gently over with my fingers. Can you see what I'm doing here? And it gets rid of any dirt and debris, and it'll sink to the bottom of this bowl. So I really like this way of washing mushrooms. And then we want to dry them off. So I'm going to wrap them up in a towel. So here I am, getting all my mushroom boys. Again, if I see any spots like this looks like he's starting to break down a little bit. I'm going to cut him off. I don't want any slimy mushrooms. So if my mushroom is slimy at all, absolutely, he does not get put into this. So, but you can see that underneath that part is looking pretty good. So we're doing that, and then I'm gonna, after I get these icky parts cut off, I'm gonna wrap these in a little towel, like a little spa day, and we'll get them going here. So we are gonna slice up these mushrooms. They are going to be one of the things that are going in the bottom as a barrier. This is going to be a combination of vegetables and carbs. There's not a ton of protein in this, so if you did want to put a protein, you could. I am putting my, oops, I'm sorry, I got the cart before the horse. We're going to first make our sauce, and this is going to be, oops, can you see it? Let's see. You don't need to look at dirty mushroom water. You can look at this. Forgot I was on camera. All right, there you go. There's my jar. I'm going to start by putting a little bit of my sauce ingredients. This is sriracha. If you're not familiar with sriracha, it is a hot sauce. I think it's Thailand. And this is ground ginger. And again, you know me, we're measuring. There's actual measurements. This is a Budget Bites recipe. And if Beth Monsell, if you're out there, I'm obsessed with you and I love all your recipes. Budget Bites is a great website. They have tons of meal prep ideas. Oops, that was too much. They have tons of meal prep ideas, and they do a lot of really great things with both vegetarian, vegan, all sorts of different ideas. So those are just, I've got sesame oil, I've got soy sauce, ground ginger, ground garlic, and then this is kind of the secret ingredient here. Secret ingredient is also love, but this is like broth paste. You might have seen like Better Than Bouillon. This I got from Aldi's. It's real gross looking, so don't judge a book by its cover. We're gonna put in about a teaspoon of this paste into our stuff. You could use powdered bouillon. You could even use the packet from the ramen packet. I just toss mine away because it's too salty for me, but you could absolutely still use it for this. And so what we're going to do is we're going to kind of mix this together a little bit, deeply smelling like sesame oil because I poured too much of that because I wasn't paying attention, but that's okay. And then we're going to take our noodles and we're going to put them in the bottom, and they're going to start to soak up that sauce a little bit. And then we're going to start to layer the rest of our ingredients in there. And the rest of our ingredients are as follows. Sesame seeds. Somewhere I have a measuring spoon. Where did it go? What happened to it? Oh, here it is. Sesame seeds. Don't judge me by this giant jar of sesame seeds. We all have our addictions. And you can put in as many as you want. These are going to add a lot of nice crunch that have a tiny bit of protein, but not much. But some nice crunch. We're going to add our sliced mushrooms, and you can slice these however you want. I'm gonna slice them kind of thin because when I do put my hot broth, or hot water, I'm sorry, in there, I want them to kind of cook down a little bit. I don't mind a raw mushroom, but you know, you can cut them in whatever slice you want. And that way, if I take a bite out of this, I'm not getting a whole big piece of mushroom. I'm getting a little bit of everything in one bite. So you can see I've got like some nice small pieces of mushrooms. I'm going to put those into my thing here. We're also going to put some scallions or green onions. You know, this is a scallion right here. We talked a little bit about these in our last recipe about, you know, what, that they're a little bit milder than a red onion. And that's true. Where's my knife? My other knife. I don't know. So there's a couple different parts to a scallion. You've got the tops here that are dark green. I'm going to cut off the little ends because they get a little dirty, damaged or whatever. And then we got our whites here. These are so, you know, these are going to be pretty stringent. I would save these for broth or something like that. And then you've got this middle part here. You've got they consider the greens. These are used a lot for the garnish and things like that. Eat these raw. Where was I going with it? You eat these raw. Oh, this is the mildest part. And as you get lighter in color, it's going to be more and more onion flavor. So I'm going to use this light green part here. I'm not going to put a full scallion in it because that would be a lot for this one jar. But I'm going to put just a tiny bit of scallions in there because it's going to help make my broth flavorful once we add it. And then I'm going to fill this top part in with spinach. So we've got some really nice greens here. And like we talked about before, I'm layering it so that the things that will degrade. So our spinach we're putting in whole because when a leaf from like a leafy green is broken, that's how it starts to break down faster. So we don't want to break them. We want to keep them intact as much as possible. I'm going to load it up. So then I'm going to seal up my jar and I'll show it to you from the side. And this is, you can see we've got our noodles, we've got our mushrooms, our scallions, and then we've got our spinach. And all I need to do is fill this up the rest of the way with hot water. And it makes this kind of Asian inspired brothy soup. And it needs a little bit of refrigeration, nothing major, you know, maybe an ice pack, but there's not a ton of things in here that will go bad. So, you know, it doesn't need tons of refrigeration. And you see all these beautiful brothy ingredients at the bottom. So I put my hot water in here, I seal it back up, and I let it sit for like a minute to let it really steep in there and shake it around, mix it around so that it mixes all together. And I've got noodle soup. Now you can make all these up. You can make, you know, 4 or 5 of these with different toppings if you wanted to, and keep them in your fridge for probably up to 5 days. And I would say that other salad that we made earlier, you know, 5 to 7 days would be enough time on that as well. So another fun idea that's got a lot of versatility depending on your taste level. Like I said, you could add chicken, and if you were going to add a protein, you could add it in that mushroom level, you know, because we kind of want that to get some of that flavor as well. So that would be a fun idea to add some protein if you felt like you needed it. If you wanted, you could add tofu or something like that. If you wanted, you could add any sort of non-vegetable protein that you like. All right, and we're on to our last recipe. So we've kind of taken you an Asian place. We've kind of taken you, I don't know what an abundance bowl would be. I guess that's kind of Asian inspired as well. But now we're going to go firmly Italian American here. I am not Italian American. I am like every Western European thing except for that. But French, English, German, Norwegian, all those. But this is a really fun and again versatile because you don't need. I love to make sure that things are versatile so you can change them up if you want. But these are called like a pizza roll-up. And I think it's really fun. I didn't necessarily care that they were carb balanced, but I grabbed the whole wheat tortillas. These are a burrito sized tortilla. And the reason that I wanted it to be whole wheat is because I wanted it to have a lot of good fiber in it, because if we're making our lunch, we want it to taste good, but we also want it to, you know, give our bodies something as well. So I grabbed the whole wheat version. You can pick whatever tortilla you want though. If you have access to flour tortilla, just plain flour, that's great too. But we want the burrito size because we want it to be nice and big. And what we are doing is making like a little pinwheel. And your pinwheel could look like whatever you want. My pinwheel is going to have pepperoni and provolone cheese in it. But let me switch my camera, and spinach. Let me switch my camera over again so you can actually see me prep it. And what I have here is, so this is my tortilla, and I have some pesto. And, you know, our whole mission as we've been doing this is to fight sogginess. And sogginess can come in all sorts of different ways, but we're not putting on a thick layer of pesto. We don't even really need it to cover the whole thing. This is, again, a Budget Bites recipe. We're using this to kind of give a little flavor, but also help the ingredients stick to our tortilla. So I'm not even using probably a full tablespoon. This is a half teaspoon measure, but I want to get it so that when I do cut it up, I can get a little bit of pesto flavor in each. I'm not using the right tool for this, y'all. A little bit of pesto flavor in each bite. Here we go. Now she's using her noodle. So you can see I'm spreading like a thin layer. We don't want sogginess, so we don't want it to sit and get it, but the oil in the pesto will kind of help be more like a dressing rather than like a high liquid moisture. And then we're going to put on our cheese. And this is a situation where you, again, get to measure it with your heart. If you're a 2 cheese slice person, great. But we want to get, again, we're going to be rolling this up and then slicing it into 1-inch slices. So we want to get a little bit of pepperoni, a little bit of cheese in each bite. So I'm going to put a little bit of pepperoni, and this is just regular generic pepperoni, but you can get a turkey pepperoni, you can get the fancy, you know, nitrate-free pepperoni. I love pepperoni, but I also love a processed meat, so that's not surprising, I guess. And that's it, guys. We're going to roll it tightly. So you can see I am holding my ingredients. They're going to try to slide as I roll them. And I might have put too many pepperonis on, typical. So we're going to roll this up into a tight spiral. If any of you have made those ham and pickle roll-ups, you know what to do. But we're going to roll this into a tight spiral, and then we're going to keep our seam side down. I hope you can see that okay. Seam side down, and then we're going to cut it into one of, hold on, let me get my container. For this, I'm going to use this 3 container boy. I'm going to cut it into 1-inch slices. I hope you can see that. I'm trying to keep it from unrolling here. You can see that one guy wanted to, but it was right at the end. And so what we're going to do, you can see my nice spiral. It's got my cheese. Oops, I forgot spinach. Okay, we'll make a second one. I knew I was forgetting something. It felt too easy. So you can put your little pieces here, and I'm shoving them right up against each other so they don't unroll. If yours start to unroll like this, you can just give it a little thing, just shove it in there, and that's going to hold, and it's going to fight the sog. Shoot, I need to show you one that has spinach in it. Where did my tortillas go? Here they are. All right, so if I was going to add spinach into here, I want to keep the spinach away from the pesto, right? So I want to keep, the pesto is going to make the spinach start to wilt. It's not going to do too bad of things as if you used like a higher moisture content dressing or something like that, but it will still make it wilt just a little bit. We don't want slimy spinach in the middle of our thing. So we're going to add our cheese again, measure it with your heart, and our pepperonis. And then I'm gonna use my cheese as the barrier to keep my spinach away from my dressing. So I'm gonna take my spinach. And again, we wanna keep it as intact as possible. So we don't want to, it's too much. I'm overpacking it. I'm that person that overfills their taco every time. And I'm like, who could have foreseen that this was exploding everywhere? So I'm gonna take this, I'm just wrapping it tightly again. And it's gonna be even prettier this time, y'all. Just wait. Wrapping it tightly. Ooh, I did better the second time, live on air. Okay, so we're going to, I'll just show you the middle. So now we've got that nice dark green. We're keeping our spinach away from our pesto. We're gonna cut it into little bites so that because of your lunch, you want it to be convenient. And if you're in a situation where you have to eat it on the road or something like this is the perfect, I'll just put them all in here, perfect thing. But if you, with one of these separated containers, I could easily put a little pizza sauce right down in here. I could dunk my little pizza dippers right in there. And then that other spot could be for fruit or vegetable or chips or more cheese or something like that, whatever your heart tells you that you want for lunch. It could even be for a special treat or something like that, because we're eating vegetables inside of our roll. Like, how many vegetables do we need, right? So that's kind of a nice, I'm gonna just shove them all in there so I can keep them in one container. So we did it. We made some pizza roll-ups. We made an abundance bowl that would be good. Also, an abundance bowl would be like kind of good for a potluck, you know, those kinds of things. We made what else did we make? We made those noodle bowls, noodle jars, and even if you don't like make those a lot, like how fun are they? You know, if only like my kids could get like little hot water at school, they'd be like the coolest pack your lunch kids ever. But these aren't for kids, they're for adults. So you can do whatever you want. But the nice thing about these is that you can really, they're all versatile. You can do them to your taste. You can do them to your food preferences, your allergies, and you can really just like tweak them. Like we just made I don't know how many lunches in 1 hour. So you can just take a little bit of your time on your weekend or even on your Monday night. Maybe you eat out Monday and your Monday night, you go and you do your meal prep, you know, whatever night works for you, or midday, and just spend a little time. I think there's some fun stuff you can do. And so there, you know, there's a lot of different options that hopefully you guys will like and try and then tell us about later. I did see a comment from my neighbor Robin. Hi, Robin, I'm waving at your house, about where we can get these recipes. Donna and Rachel will be posting these recipes with the video on the LaSalle Public Library website. So follow their page. They usually post them in the comments of the YouTube video. So you can feel free to keep a look at that. They have a really robust set of videos, including all of my past videos on their YouTube page. So feel free to check those out. And yeah, I hope everyone has a great rest of your night. Oh my gosh, my friend Holly, who's never cleaned a mushroom in her life, when I've learned about that mushroom cleaning hack, it really changed my life, because I have gotten some gross mushrooms before, or it seemed like such a labor-intensive task. You know, the only other way that I had heard to clean mushrooms was taking like a paper towel and wiping them off. And that was just really daunting. And like, it was a barrier for me to buy fresh mushrooms. And that little bowl trick, it has really made my life different. So I hope everyone uses it.
Natalie, are you able to see the chat? Can you follow along with any of those?
I have followed along a little bit. I don't think we have any questions, do we?
Comments about cleaning the mushrooms your new way. That's exciting. I have to tell you about my mushroom cleaning experience. Yeah. We eat a lot of mushrooms of all kinds. But, you know, I'm always feeling like I have to get every iota of everything off of there because I'm freaked out. So I run. Well,
they're grown in poop. I totally get it.
Yeah, I run it under the faucet. And am I waterlogging them when I do that?
You absolutely could be, but I don't think it's gonna be more waterlogged than how I do it. You know what
Okay.
I mean? Either way, if you run them underwater or you do them in a bowl, and even if you do them in the bowl and then change your water and do them again in the bowl, great. But
Yeah.
the big trick is just wrapping them. I just use, you can do paper towels. I am a big cotton towel person because they don't have the extra fibers. And so I just wrap them in here. Like it's the first thing I do when I'm prepping for the night. I wash my mushrooms and then I wrap them in a towel, and then usually they're nice and dry. Because if you've ever cooked with a mushroom before, you know, as you're cooking it, it's just leaching water out, right? It's just
Right.
pushing lots of water out. So we don't need to add more. So getting them nice and dry in your towel is a big deal.
Okay, now, I'm thinking that you mentioned tofu, you know, that, you know, that's me, I'm the
Mhm.
tofu person.
Yeah.
I'm also thinking we could add various beans to any of these recipes if we want to
Mhm.
add a protein.
Mhm.
Is there something more than another type of bean that would go well with the red quinoa? We also use quinoa.
With the red quinoa, absolutely chickpeas, black
Chickpeas,
beans,
okay.
chickpeas, black beans, those both good. Any bean that you would eat raw, or like not raw, but you know,
Yeah,
you would eat like uncooked or whatever. Any of those beans would be great with quinoa, and quinoa and beans take on whatever flavor you put in them. So it's going to be a blank slate, and you can have it. These are really good, these pepperoni roll-ups, and you could put hummus in these too, Donna.
yes, good idea. Right. And I do like your jars. I want to ask you, and unless someone else has questions, I'm just going to keep spilling these out here because my, you
Mhm.
know.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at your multi-sectioned glass
Mhm.
dishes.
Mhm.
And two things, I immediately logged on to the fact that one, yeah, exactly. One has the Titanic compartments and the other one doesn't, the one that
Mhm.
doesn't leak. So I
Yeah.
love the silicone
Mhm.
piece that goes over the top and creates
Yeah.
the perfect bond. Now, if this were not a cold dish and I were going to heat something
Mhm.
up in here, is silicone able to go in the microwave? Is any of the
Yeah.
plastic able to go?
Yeah, absolutely. The lid, I mean, whenever you're gonna heat like a plastic in the microwave, it's gonna degrade faster than if you don't, right? So, you know, I would maybe put a paper towel over the top of it instead. I'm really like protective of my lids. Like I don't put them in the dishwasher because it's like the heat just really seems to do things to them, where it doesn't to the glass. So you know, putting a paper plate or putting, you know, something like that over the top when you're heating it in the microwave, maybe would be a more like it's fine. It will do fine in the microwave, but it might just make them last a little longer. If
Well, I
you
was
are
looking more from the health safety standpoint.
Oh,
I usually go with paper too, over the
yeah.
top. I'm just checking in, you
Yeah,
know,
so
so that,
I think, you know, pay attention when you're buying it because depending, the silicone for sure can go in the microwave, you know, in the dishwasher and all that stuff. But I tend to be a little bit suspicious of microwaving plastics. So I tend to not, but if it says it's microwave safe, that just means it's not going to melt in your microwave.
all right, now, ever since your Hasselback potato performance, which was just so outstanding, and I can't tell you how many people had the same reaction that I did, that we never realized we were supposed to, you know, cut the bottom off of the potato so it sat flat and didn't wobble around.
Isn't it
was just
once
like,
you see something like that is like wild, right?
yeah, how did I not know this? And so, and the little what were they, chopsticks along the side that kept you from cutting all the way through? It was so impressive.
I mean,
this is
I've
going
never
down
had
in,
an original idea in my life. These are all ideas from the internet.
well,
So
this went down in food history, at least at the
yeah.
LaSalle Public Library. But I wanted to point out tonight, because I'm so taken with that whole thing, that you talked about making those little carrot sticks, but you never
Oh.
even mentioned that first thing that you did, the first cut, by cutting the bottom of the carrot off to set it flat on the cutting board. And I want to point it out to anybody out there
Yeah.
that's still like me who didn't know that.
Yeah,
Um,
so whenever you're dealing with anything round, I mean, obviously it's a waste, right? But if it's a
Right.
waste that you can use it for your broth or you don't mind that little bit of waste, and again, it's in the grand scheme of things, it's not a ton, but making any round item square is going to make it 1,000 times easier for you to chop it because we deal better in our brains with straight lines, right? And trying to cut a round item into a straight line matchstick is just, it's too hard for me, you know? So I try to cut down all of the outside. I'm doing it right now, but you can't even see it. So I try to cut down all of my round objects into squares first, and then go from there to make my, if I really care about how it looks. If I don't care how it looks, like if you're putting in stew or whatever like that, but if you're going to cut it into a matchstick and you want to keep things in a uniform shape, then it's more helpful to cut it into a square shape.
It's just stunning revelation. That's all I can say. It really, really is exciting. I just had an idea and I forgot what it was.
Is it to put your sliced green peppers with your pizza roll up so it tastes like a pizza with green peppers on it?
No,
That
but
was
that's
not-
a great idea.
It's not my idea. It's Beth Monso from Budget Bites.
I was
But-
going to say, since you already have it sitting there and it is a lovely pepper,
Mhm.
I think that I will probably have another idea and I'll have to email you tomorrow. But I will share it with the group once I get an answer.
Well, that would be great. And I just thank you so much, everybody, for logging on. I know we have like 25 of us tonight, which is an awesome number. And so I'm hope that everyone got some good ideas.
We all have. And I think lunch is looking more exciting with that jar. I'm all about that.
The jar, right? It feels really cool, even though it's, just like,
$2
cup.
at Marshall.
yeah, $2. And they're so fancy looking. They look
They
just like super fancy.
They do.
But my husband's going to take this for work tomorrow.
Very good. Well, thank you to our audience for attending. I hope you've all enjoyed the program. Please
Yeah.
complete the pop-up survey when it appears when we close the Zoom connection. And Natalie, I'll turn it back to you for closing comments.
Thank you guys so much. If you are interested in other cooking programs by me or by anyone else, make sure that you send Donna and Rachel an email with a suggestion or an idea. If you have any questions about stuff you saw tonight, I also have sent a product list if you're interested in buying. Again, I don't get any money. It's not a paid endorsement, but if you are interested in the specific projects that I've used tonight, I did send those over to Donna. So hopefully, so those should get posted with the recording as well. And I just love spending my night with you. So thanks so much, everybody.
Well, thank you, Natalie, and thank you to our audience. And so until next time, happy eating, pack that lunch, and good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.